The other day we had a vote in Arizona, primary, and unfortunately, they were very ill-equipped for this primary. There was a great number of controversies that came out of it, including Democrats going and finding out that they were not registered as Democrats, even though they registered that way. Now, it's a closed primary, so that's really, really important. So if they show up and it says they're a Republican or they're a Libertarian or whatever else it got switched to, they might not be able to vote. They have to do provisional ballots. In some cases, they get discouraged and simply go home because they didn't know that they had the option of provisional ballots. So that is a very serious issue that authorities should look into. A second issue came up, which was the gigantic lines. Now, from time to time, because of the enthusiastic support of some of these candidates, you will see big lines in voting places. But you're not supposed to have big lines. In an ideal world, there's plenty of polling locations so people don't have to wait in hours online. They might go in the morning. There might be a little bit of a jam because as everybody's going to work, they're all going to vote at that time or coming out of work. So that's understandable, but not like this. So in Maricopa County, they had trouble, as they often do. So I want to give you context for how bad this trouble was. In 2012, they had 200 polling locations in Maricopa County. Well, that's good. It was needed, and that worked well. So they decided to screw it up, I don't know if on purpose or just out of sheer incompetence. In a year where they thought they might get more voters, they knocked it down to 60 polling locations. They cut the number of polling locations, in other words, by 70%. Now, how many voters actually showed up? Well, in 2012, to be fair to them, there was a lot of voters, 300,000 voters. In 2016, there was 800,000 voters. Disaster. So, more context for you guys. Most counties surveyed by the Arizona Republic had enough polling places to average 2,500 or fewer eligible voters per polling site. Maricopa County had only one site per every 21,000 voters. Well, if you have that, obviously there's going to be gigantic lines. The bigger the line, the more people get discouraged, and they go home. Well, it's not a matter of discouragement. Some people have to go to work in the morning. They have to go take care of their kids at night. They can't afford to sit there. They got to go to class. All these different reasons why you would get out of line, and hence less people get to vote, which is antithetical to a democracy. But in Arizona, they have different ideas apparently about democracy. So what did it result in? Raw Story explains. The result, as Arizona Central noted as well, was the last vote was cast just after midnight in Maricopa County, which encompasses Phoenix. The polling closed at 7 o'clock. They were still in line at midnight. Wow, the incompetence is breathtaking. And you're going to hear from the person who caused that incompetence in a second, and it is amazing what her response is. So, one more note here on how long it took. More than 4 hours, the Arizona Republic explains, after polling places closed, hundreds of people were still in line to vote at the Salvation Army office on 3rd Avenue in downtown Phoenix. Well, now we go to Helen Purcell. She was in charge of these decisions and the voting overall. And by the way, they also ran out of ballots in a lot of places, especially in Phoenix. And then they had to go run to other places, try to find more ballots, and bring it back while people continued to wait in line. I mean, an utter debacle, right? Here is her answer as to why that happened.
Obviously, you've heard of all of the frustration. Who's to blame for these long lines?
Well, the voters for getting in line, maybe us for not having enough polling places, or as many as we usually have.
Are you saying voters should have sent in ballots by mail because you're saying they're partly to blame for standing in line?
Well, no, they're not to blame for standing in line, but they went to the polling places. They could have voted early, or, that was their option in this instance. So I don't mean to blame the voters.
Except for the fact that you just did. That was amazing. Who's at fault for the long lines? The voters for getting in line. When you're in charge of voting, you should be excited that they got in line. That's a great thing, not a bad thing. It's not a positive thing that they had to wait 5 hours in line. Man, they will not accept responsibility under any circumstances. So, on me, man. I knocked down polling locations by 70%. I totally underestimated the number of people who were going to show up. We didn't have enough ballots. Whose fault is the goddamn voters? All that voting they were trying to do. Just can't have it. Maricopa County, the epicenter of incompetence in America. You got Sheriff Joe there. You've now got Helen Purcell, and they're kind of proud of it. They're like, yeah, Sheriff Joe is under federal investigation for not doing his job. He refused to protect Latinos that live in his county. Helen Purcell now bragging about, like, oh, goddamn voters trying to vote. You know what I'm saying? I'm not blaming them, but whose fault is it, really? I mean, all those people waiting in line, obviously trying to vote. Can't have it. Unbelievable. Arizona, what a goddamn mess.